Squirrel Punch?
Squirrel Punch!
Squirrel
Punch! I would like you to know, though, because the Squirrel Punch is not my baby.
No.
And I wanted to do it justice, so I did eat a squirrel for breakfast.
That is not what we do on Squirrel Punch. I don't know why you can't understand that. So Squirrel Punch is a little show that Lasercorn and I were kind of coming up with, and Sohinki was our first guest, and now Lasercorn is actually in Las Vegas, lost in a desert. So
I'm taking over. I'm
Yeah.
the new co-host. This is my show now, bitch. Wait, hold on.
Oh.
I gotta clarify.
Okay.
I did not just call Lasercorn a bitch because I know that if you heard that,
There would be
you would
revenge.
think that, and then he would come to my home and burn it down. So I just want to say that I was just saying bitch out loud.
It's like an exclamation.
It's an exclamation to the audience, and Lasercorn is very much not a bitch.
And with Mari out of office and Lasercorn lost in the desert, we need content on Wednesdays. So Sohinki and I are going to be doing a Squirrel Punch today, and just in time for Halloween. We're going to be talking about horror movies, and not just like, oh, it's Halloween, let's talk about our favorite horror movies. Our buddy Sohinki here has been on an adventure
on a quest.
On a quest?
Yes.
To watch all of the old horror movies, all the classics that he'd never seen before. So we're going to kind of hear about that journey and what it's like watching 70s horror films 50 years later, and the different other movies that he's watched that have scared the crap out of him.
50 years later, that's bizarre. But I think before we get into any business, we should let everyone know that, hey, they can check out the extended version of what they're listening to on YouTube on the Patreon. I mean, you may or may not have said that already, but
no, I didn't.
Cover it just in case.
This is you're doing it.
Yeah, check it out over on the Patreon. And also, is there going to be a Spotify version, or are we just going to...
I think this one is YouTube only. We don't have enough Squirrel Punches to have done Spotify. So, yes, we have the extended video version on Patreon, where you can also find the OGSoG podcast video version.
And speaking of Wednesday content, we recently went over 400 patrons, and our goal for hitting 500 patrons is every Wednesday will be a gameplay video. We are actually so close to hitting that goal way sooner than any of us thought we'd be there. So thank you so much for your support, everyone that's already a patron. And if you want to see video games instead of us punching squirrels, then you should probably go subscribe on the Patreon.
And in order to kind of even help promote that a little bit more, in the month of November, we are scheduled to do a shoot, I think this coming Wednesday, to do some video games that'll show up in November. So if you want to know what that gameplay content is going to look like, it's coming.
Yeah.
So
you asked me. I'm the interviewee here. You asked me questions.
So first off, you went on a quest. When did you start watching all of these old horror movies again to kind of catch up to horror movies?
I would say this started probably like, I don't know, May-ish. No. I'm gonna say it started. So this started originally. So it probably started in April, because before the Evil Dead game came out, I really wanted to rewatch all of the old Evil Dead movies. And then I also watched all of Ash vs. Evil Dead on Netflix, because I was just like in Evil Dead mode. And I had kind of always wanted to watch all the old horror movies, and that was just kind of the catalyst. I was like, all right, well, I watched Evil Dead again.
It's like, I'm in the zone. I'll ride the wave. What did you think of the TV show?
I thought the TV show is really good. I mean, it is campy as all hell, and the dialogue is sometimes terrible, but it's like, it's what people came to expect from Evil Dead. It's just over-the-top gore, and like,
I saw what you saw.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
So before this, when you went like down this path, had you seen a lot of other horror movies? Was it kind of like, because we've talked about like The Sixth Sense, both like being a movie that scared us when we were younger, but have you watched other horror before this adventure?
No, not really. I mean, I would watch some horror movies here and there, but they would always give me like, especially when I was like a kid, when I would see them, I would always get nightmares. So I hated watching horror movies. I'd have like the weirdest nightmares afterward, and like I'd run into my parents' room and be like, I had a nightmare. It got to, I didn't even think about this or process this until I was an adult. They used to let me sleep in the bed with them when I would have nightmares, but it must have happened so often. I remember at one point they started just having me sleep on the floor because they were just tired of having me in their bed. So like if I ran in with a nightmare, they would just put some blankets down for me to sleep next to the bed.
So like a dog.
It was just funny too, because then I remember this is something I'm actually just remembering off the top of my head. it got to a point where all of a sudden I was scared because it would be pitch black and I'd be looking under their bed and I couldn't see what was under the bed.
It only made it worse. Was there, so after the Evil Dead stuff, and you're like, all right, let's jump into horror movies. Was there like a franchise that you were excited to jump into?
Yeah. Well, so I only watched one entire franchise so far, but I watched the like first one of a lot of them. So the very first one I watched was Nightmare on Elm Street.
You watched all of them or just select few?
No, so I only watched the very first Nightmare on Elm Street so far. And that movie,
I'm not a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan. He wasn't my go-to character for those.
As I was watching this, because I remember seeing the very end of a Freddy movie when I was a little kid, and it scared the crap out of me, literally like the last 5 minutes. I don't remember. I mean, I don't know which one it was, but I
had to go sleep on the floor with his parents.
Yeah. Well, I think I was staying over at my friend's place at the time, but it was the way that one ended was it was like he surprise came, because I feel like that's his thing. He surprise comes back at the end of all the movies, but
yeah, can't kill him.
He surprise came back on a school bus. That's all I remember. But anyway, the first movie I watched it, and I just remember thinking, man, this is so not scary.
What was I worried about? And
not scary.
How many of the Iconic still has movies in canon coming out this month? Halloween.
I've seen most of the Halloween movies, so that was the one franchise that we kind of like started watching the whole thing. Just because we kind of were hooked on, just Laurie Strode's storyline.
Yeah,
and it's funny because we didn't know,
because it's the one that actually has a through story. Like Nightmare, kind of. Jason, not really at all.
Yeah, and we didn't know that it wasn't always Laurie Strode. So like, and you know this, and anyone watching I'm sure knows this, but it's like we watched the first two. And by the way, I thought it was really cool what they did with the second one. I don't think I've ever seen a sequel, especially for a horror movie, that picks up the moment the first one ended. Yeah, it was. I thought what they did with that was really cool. And then the third one we didn't even watch because we read the synopsis and it's not even Michael Myers. Yeah, it's really weird.
I was kind of hoping that you did watch it and be like, yeah, was very confused, waited the whole time for Michael Myers, did not show up.
No, I don't remember what happened. I don't remember why because normally we don't read synopses because Julia really doesn't like
It's also like this pop culture thing that you may have just remembered, like, oh, I think there's something weird about the third one. Let's look it up real fast.
And then, so we skipped that one. We watched 4 and 5. And then I think those are the two with the little girl.
Yeah, 4 and 5. Which do you remember if it was like a daughter, a younger, someone's daughter, someone's sister?
I feel like she's the younger sister of Laurie Strode.
Well, then she would have still been a.
Let's see if there's something in the synopsis. But yeah, I thought I remember. That's like the whole thing. Is it's just like
it's like
any
the curse of the family. Yeah,
Niece. Yeah, so it's her niece,
it's
apparently.
His niece. Got it. Skipping a bunch of Halloween movies. You and I had the chance that we were texting about this because I love horror movies. This is kind of my jam. I grew up with this. So when he started going on this thing, he's like, all right, what movies do I need to watch? I'm like, all right, this one. But you had seen Halloween Kills before me. I had just seen it this year because I was waiting for it. I was excited for it. The concept sounded great. Like the entire town is looking for Michael Myers and Michael Myers is trying to get to Laurie. So he's just going to kill everyone. I'm like, that sounds great.
And that one scene, you know which one I'm talking about.
End or
is
middle?
Great. End.
And yeah.
That scene's hilarious.
He kills a lot of people. Not nearly as many as I thought we were going to have. It almost seemed like there was an A story and a B story happening, and the stuff in A story didn't matter. Like, we're going to go into some slight spoiler territory, but there's the person they think is Michael Myers is at the hospital, and, it was like the director wanted
That's
to just...
so sad.
Yeah, it's sad. It's this well done moment. It just feels ill placed. It's like the director really wanted to be like, all right, we're going to have this mentality on we're going to have this theme about mob mentality. It's, this allegory for how things are right now. And it's this witch hunt. Yeah. And we're just like, isn't Michael Myers like way over there doing a thing right now? Can we stop with this is a weird thing. This is easily preventable.
I just was cringing in my seat at Evil Dies Tonight. The just chant. Oh my gosh.
Chanting the log line of the movie over and over. Like this, like script wise, one of the worst horror movie scripts, in a modern day era.
And the movie is essentially completely carried by the fact that Michael Myers is such an iconic villain. Everything else about it is, Jamie Lee Curtis does great.
But she doesn't interact with them at all. Like it's, It was a giant movie just to get you to a third movie. I liked the first one. I liked the first one a lot.
I was gonna say the same thing. Halloween, the new, was it 2018 Halloween? That was actually really, really good, I thought.
I was upset and I didn't want to watch it because I like Halloween too. I like the fact that it's like moments after, here's canon. Because then even H2O like skipped everything else but still said 1 and 2 were canon. This one was like, no, only 1's canon. I was like, stop changing what exists.
It's not even like they killed off any beloved characters in that one or anything.
Have you seen Halloween Ends yet?
No, but I do want to see it.
Yeah.
I feel like I was really excited for Kills after 2018, and then I am less excited for Ends.
I saw a trailer that made it confusing or really cool. I don't know, because it looked like they were recreating scenes, but I don't know why they were recreating scenes. So I have no clue what to expect from the movie.
I did see where it like fades back to the past. Yeah. That did look cool.
So I know you started watching the Evil Dead movies because you were playing the Evil Dead game. Did you do any preparation for the Texas Chainsaw game then?
Yeah. So I had like the most I'd ever seen was I randomly have seen like the last half. I don't even remember why I missed it. I think it was just on TV and I was morbidly curious when I was younger. I saw like the last half of the remake, but I still actually
that's the Jessica Biel one, right? I like that one.
Yeah, dude.
That's my favorite version of that one.
Yeah, it can't the 2003 one, right?
Yeah.
So I've heard that one from fans of the original. I've heard that one's actually really good. So I do want to go back and kind of watch that whole thing through now.
Does a good job with tone.
That was the most Texas Chainsaw I'd ever seen, and I was like, well, the whole point of this game is it's like a love letter to the original. So I got to go back and watch the original. And I have to say, like, as a complete movie, like, as a slasher film, whatever, like, I think, like, you can argue for other films, but just as a, like, complete scary movie, like, it might be my favorite one, the original Texas Chainsaw. It's just really... like I feel like they did certain things artfully, like there's like the thematic comparison of people to cattle in that situation. There's like all this backstory that I didn't know about that I've been looking into. That's it's not in the movie really, but
it's been elaborated on over the years.
Yeah, they vaguely talk about it when they're talking about the slaughterhouses, but I guess the whole like kind of lore is the reason the family came on rough times is like the slaughterhouses are kind of stole a lot of people's jobs of people that were just like these modern slaughterhouses rather than people that just like raised cattle and to sell like meat and stuff. And the family fell on hard times and it drove them crazy, whatever. Like, there's backstory there that, like, isn't really elaborated on in the movie, but that's really interesting. But, yeah, it's just, like...
there was a prequel? I can't even remember. There might have been a prequel, too.
I believe it. But yeah, something about it, like, it's so scary, and most of the movie takes place in the daytime, and it's still so scary, and there's, like, really... cool things they do, like with the camera work that like makes you feel uneasy, but you don't really know why. Like, there's this like iconic shot when you first see the house where you're like looking through the swing set thing, and the camera is just like slightly off kilter, and it just like gives you that like uneasy feeling.
You're gonna like the remake a lot. I think you're gonna like it a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, something about it was just like so good to me, and it wasn't. The thing I appreciate about it too is, and I think it was so smart, is it's not over the top gory.
Nope.
It's more disturbing.
Yes.
Like the first kill is like sticks out in my head. Like when I think about disturbing kills in any horror movie that I've seen, the very first one in Texas Chainsaw, where he basically mimics the thing they're talking about with the cattle in the beginning, where he's just like he didn't kill him with the first blow, so he's sitting there like seizing. It's it's so disturbing.
Yeah, I feel like that was the first movie for me that was more, being a slasher fan, and then going into this one, I was like, nope, this is just weird in my gut, and I don't like this. And then I had a fear for Cannibal Hicks.
What is Cannibal Hicks?
Hicks who are cannibals.
Oh, Cannibal. Dude, the way you said that was like Cannibal Hicks. Yeah, that guy I should know. Cannibal Hicks. I just looked it up because I was just thinking about this. It's almost like the same vibe, like obviously completely different movies, but it's the same vibe that I got watching Deliverance. You ever watch that?
Yep, same.
Yeah, same kind of idea of like just this gross.
Like they know how to use knives. And I'm like, I don't like that. In your quest to rewatch all these horror movies, did you have any ones that you were surprised that you're like, oh wow, this is genuinely good? It was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I don't think I was expecting. I mean, I watched the whole franchise. I don't think I was expecting to like Halloween as much as I did.
Especially because it's so old, right? Like there's just some movies that just stand up.
I thought it would be dated. I didn't think it was going to be good. And the original Scream, I actually was not expecting to think that movie was good. It's just like become so big in pop culture.
Did you just do the first one?
No, we watched all of them.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, we've in fact, I think we invited people over and watched every Scream movie in order.
That's a fun day.
It was a lot of Scream though. It's like it's the same tropes over and over again. So it's just kind of like it's a little bit of Scream overload by the end. But.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, it wasn't the killer. Who is the killer? Was there a movie that you saw that was bad, but you're like, no, I like this movie. I get that it's bad, but I like it. I feel like that's in a lot of horror movies.
I don't know that I've watched any that I thought were bad. Oh, well, okay. I got one. Hellraiser.
Okay.
Hellraiser, I don't know that it was bad per se, but it was very not what I was expecting.
Yeah, no, they're weird. They're a little bit different.
I wouldn't have even called it, I don't even know that I would call it scary. It's just weird. It's like I didn't know about the whole BDSM element. Mm-hmm. Like I just was like, oh, this Pinhead and his gang of weird demons. Yeah, he just comes and kills you with chains, but that's not what it is at all. In fact, that element of it is almost not even in the movie. Now that you mention So Bad It's Good, it reminded me of Busta Rhymes Saves the Day.
If none of us brought it up, I was gonna have Lasercorn film an insert just to be like, because I know he'd get real mad at us if we didn't talk about Busta Rhymes busting a move on Michael Myers.
That movie was really bad.
Because that was during that would definitely fall into the category because it's during the time of like unscripted television on its rise, and so it's like, how do we do Michael Myers but in a reality show?
And everyone wanted to be in the house for some reason. They all wanted to be on the show, and no one really explained why the show was so popular. It didn't even seem like the show was that popular because they almost had no budget.
Yeah. And I just know the whole round kick thing was like Busta just standing there with like the director's like, hey, what if Michael Myers shows up and instead of him stabbing me, I roundhouse kick him?
Yeah, I feel like it probably happened because in the initial script he dies because he dies. You think he dies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he's like, "Hey, I can't die in this movie. I actually have to kill Michael Myers." With a roundhouse kick.
To wrap things up, are there any new modern horror movies that you had the chance to see where you're like, oh man, horror movies now are really, really good?
You know what I haven't seen that I'm definitely going... We talked about going to see this. I really don't, but I do, but I don't, but I do want to see Smile.
Yeah, I'm hearing good things.
Yeah, it looks really good.
By the time this goes up, we may have seen it by then.
Yeah. Possible.
I did Google up just like horror movies that came out that are really good in the last couple of years, and I know that your list might be kind of full of things to watch before this month, before the month ends. But I forgot that I wanted to talk about this. I'm so glad I remembered about it. We were talking about slashers. Slashers are hard to do now without them being cheesy. There's a movie, it's called Freaky, and I think you'd love it. It is
Freaky?
Vince Vaughn is a serial killer, and he Freaky Fridays with a high school girl, and they switch spots.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
So she's in him, and so he's trying to find her friends, essentially. He's like, no, I know I look like the killer. I'm not the killer. Remember, we did this dance. Like, it's everything you'd expect from like a Freaky Friday style
really
movie,
funny.
but now this teenage girl is just going around slaughtering people.
I thought we had some great, and if you're watching this on when it comes out, you know the podcast has already gone up. We had some great slasher ideas on our podcast recently. Just need to get done. Yours especially was phenomenal, I thought.
Yeah, well, now we make them, and then we redo this episode. Actually, I look forward to doing another Squirrel Punch with you next September, maybe August. And I'm like, all right, here's the movies you haven't seen yet. We're making the list now, and then we'll follow you through the next conquest of horror movies. But that's our Squirrel Punch episode. Let us know what your favorite horror movies are. There are so many that we didn't talk about that I'm upset we didn't talk about. I wanted to mention that I hate Midsommar. Do not like it. Hereditary. It's okay. I would skip Midsommar. It's actually, you and Julia might have fun sitting down and watching that and just being like, this is weird.
You know what I watched recently that I'm sure the original's scary, but this wasn't, was the new Candyman. I thought, it was like decent.
Yeah, those are good movies. Yeah, even the originals, they're good. And Get Out in the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Phenomenal movie. But that's Squirrel Punch. So again, this is, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is a shortened version of the longer version. We do have the full episode of Squirrel Punch up on our Patreon. Go check that out, along with extended episodes of our other gameplay stuff and our actual podcasts with video versions of them as well. So Inky, anything else coming up? We're going into November, which is gameplay month. Have we mentioned December stuff yet?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that we've mentioned. I mean, did we just kind of hint that we're doing something called OGSoG?
We got some OGSoG or something very similar to that title coming up in the month of December. November's gameplay. So we got some fun stuff coming. I hope you're having a wonderful Halloween season. Let us know what your favorite movies are. And that's it. And Sohinki will end this episode by eating another squirrel.
Yep. I got it right here. Killed it this morning.
That's not what we do!
Thank you to all the patrons. You can see their names listed over here. We're turning into an army. If you want to join us, check out patreon.com/OGSoG. And also, check out my Kickstarter. For the 20s You'll Roll. It's the book I'm kickstarting right now. And we've got a lot of great tiers over there. Link in the description. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.